welcome everyone. Today we have with us Ashwin Chekawa. He started his search to learn yoga at the age of 9, but didn't want to go through the usual route of teacher training courses. His own words were he wanted to experience the real deal. So he went on his search for his guru and he finally met Guru Mahavtar Babaji in the Kali Gandaki Valley of Nepal. Now he is a part of Trilok Akhada, that is a secret akhada with branches all over the world. And his main purpose in life is to teach people how to love one another using yoga as a tool. So, welcome, Ashwin.
Thank you, Harish.
So, I'll start with the first question. You mentioned your search to learn yoga at the age of 9. What were the triggers for your search at such a young age?
I always felt a little more awake than all the adults around me at that age, because I could see that people are doing things without really having any clear timeline for the future, and they're not being nice to each other. This I noticed when I was very young. Whether it's people in my family, or whether it's people in my school, they were just not being nice to each other. So I was like, what can I do about this? And my father was a huge influence because he had a huge collection of yoga books, and I started devouring them by the age of 9. And then I said, I know there's one solution to all this emotional violence and all this inefficiency that I see around me, and that is to become a yogi. So I have to become a yogi. So it started becoming like a big, a desperate search, because I knew that. I mean, I read Swami Rama's book, and I read Paramahamsa Yogananda's book, and I read about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. I thought these guys are cool because they don't have problems. I mean, they have problems, but they don't really give a, you know, I mean, they don't really care. So they like they can like look at their problems and transgress it, and move beyond it.
Your work and how you teach yoga, and your primary intention is to help people love each other through yoga.
Mhm.
So, can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, of course. So I would say that the basic meaning of yoga is union, and you'll find this in any textbook that you open up, right? And if you do open like BK Iyengar's Light on Yoga, for example, he's clearly mentioned that the meaning of yoga means union, but then people mistake this to be the union of Atman with Paramatman, my soul with the Supreme Soul. But that shows a fundamental misunderstanding of why we come here. Because if everything is going good, if everything is awesome for you, like you're in heaven, then like you're God, if you're God and everything, you can do whatever you want, you get bored, right? So that's why we make challenges. Even when we design a game for human beings, we make sure that it's very challenging and very difficult, otherwise we won't play. Gamers will understand, right? If it's easy, then you don't want to play the game. It's only when it's difficult that you want to play the game. So really, I'm telling you that we didn't come here to become united with God. That we already are. We came here to become united with each other, to start loving each other and to start understanding each other. And that's where our learning is. That's where our next step of evolution is going to happen. If you don't participate in love, if you don't participate in kindness, if you don't participate in exchange, if you don't participate in looking out for each other, having each other's back, then we don't evolve. We don't go to the next level. So even if you're after just yogic powers and siddhis, they're not going to come to you when you're all selfish, all wanting it for yourself. When you have a goal and a mission which involves other people, that's when you're going to start developing the siddhis, and that's when going to start developing the motivation and the ability to manifest things in your life without really any chance of it coming, but things happen, right? That's how I cure people, because doctors have given up on them, and then they come to me, and then I'm working with I'm working with love. There's no other way to express it. So when I feel unconditional love for them, they're not experienced that. For the first time in their life, they feel alive. For the first time in their life, their prana starts flowing, and all the other bodies start healing. So healing and love are just one thing, you know. Yeah.
So,
So that's why I'm on this mission. Hmm.
when you, let's say, how you explain me, when you explain to anyone else, they might be wondering that their prime intention is to lose weight. So, what is
Yeah.
your technique in, if let's say someone who wants to lose 50 kilos?
Hmm. Hmm. So I have done this. I've brought people down from 120 kilos all the way to 60 kilos. So they've lost 60 kilos, right? So how did
Wow.
they do
Wow.
that? They did that by clearing their mind. Why do you eat? Why do you overeat? Because your relationships suck. That's why you go and overeat. There's no other reason, because you don't want your mind to go to how badly your relationships suck. So that's the
True.
reason most people overeat. And the moment they start building their relationships and they can repair all of that in their life, and they, you know, like if they get their spouse to start caring for them, or they get their children to start caring for them, or get their parents to start caring for them, they're able to bring about this change. They stop eating. Eating is just a substitute for the, I mean, it's like to overcome the pain of not being loved. This is why people are overeating, right? And this is why also we're falling very sick, because we want the attention of our loved ones. This is why people fall sick, by the way, uh, because they're not getting enough love, care, attention, kindness from their loved ones. Then they fall really sick so that they can take care of them. I've
True.
noticed this pattern over and over. So people need to go into the fundamental mental body. Science ends at the pranic body. After the pranic body, science cannot sense, and it can't sense the mind. We have psychology, which is a bunch of theory, but we in yoga we look at the mind as also a body, right? Just like a physical body, it has the same form, but it's filled with a lot of mind objects. So I work with these mind objects and take it out, then the person feels suddenly free. And there's an integration period. It's not like they get okay in like one day, but if I work with them for one day, they'll take like 5 or 6 days to integrate into it. Within a week, they are a new person, because we are our minds, right? See, if I lose my hand, Harish, I'm still going to be me. If I lose my leg, I'm
True.
still going to be me. In fact, even if I lose my brain, I'm still going to be me. I mean, if something happens to my brain, I'm still going to experience myself as me.
So, I guess once your mind is clear and you're not filled with all those rushing emotions, then
Mm.
whatever workout or whatever asana or pranayam do, that would have a more amplified effect.
Absolutely. I've seen it in my life. I've seen it in more than 1,000 students who I've trained over the past 3 years. So I've seen it in everyone's life that this is the basic, primary, fundamental thing, our emotions. If we don't know how to manage them, then our physical body will not respond. Actually, we don't have to work out like maniacs to lose weight, really. We just have to stop eating like maniacs. Then the weight will go. But people think they'll eat like maniac and work out like maniac, and then finally they just hurt themselves.
So, in the past, you also talked about these biomarkers like measuring vitamin D or hemoglobin, and
Mhm.
like all these markers aren't like the only way to define a good health. So, can
Mhm.
you elaborate more on that?
I started getting patients whose blood tests are completely normal, but they're very sick. Now, there was no explanation from the doctors, and they say it's all in your mind. They say it's psychosomatic, and then they let it go. But they don't know how to reach the mind. So that's why, even though a person can have all the biomarkers normal, they can still be very sick. They can have constipation, they can have stomach problems, they can have all sorts of issues which are not infections. Yeah, so it's checking as their infection, but suddenly their body is inflamed, even though all the CBC is showing leukocytes, monocytes, everything is normal, but still the person is showing signs of inflammation. They're not able to, they have their inflamed knees and elbows and all that. So they just call it something, they'll call it rheumatoid arthritis. Nobody knows what it means. For me, they told me I had latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, LADA. I have LADA. But
Oh,
that's not a diagnosis. What I'll do with LADA? What I'll do with your laddus, right? I don't know what to do with this. So then that's why I started studying blood chemistry analysis to find out what's wrong with me. I found out also what's going on, and according to the blood chemistry analysis, my beta cells were my immune system was attacking my beta cells, and what to do about it? Nothing you can do about it. Just wait for your death. This is the answer of the doctors. Right? You take insulin injections, wait for your death, because you can't produce insulin anymore. So then I started going to my mind and I found out mental objects in my mind and I cleared them. When I cleared the mental objects, within 3 days, my sugars came back to normal. But when we have a chronic problem, the physical techniques are proved to be inadequate. So that's why we need to move into the mind techniques, right? It's complementary. You can't say that, I'll do only this or I'll do only this. Uh, the science of medicine goes hand in hand with the practice of yoga, siddhi.
so now speaking about how to increase your age, what is your process of reverse aging or longevity?
Not my process. It's been proven scientifically, and Bruce Lipton wrote one book about it also. It's called the honeymoon effect. Okay, so when couples are in love for the first time, they have something called the honeymoon effect going on for a few months at least. Okay,
Mm,
and this in this honeymoon effect, there are chemicals produced in the body with enzyme. There's an enzyme produced called telomerase. And telomerase rebuilds the ends of your DNA. The ends of your DNA are called telomeres. And these ends, a little bit gets chopped off each time the cell reproduces. And slowly, 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 even the material of the DNA starts getting chopped off. And that's why we age, right? That's why our skin starts wrinkling and we start aging. Uh, Now the age of my skin is like a 20-year-old. I have like a normal complexion, like consistent complexion. Everything is tight, and I don't have
right.
wrinkles or anything like that. I'm just 43, but compared to my friends, if you look at my body and my friends' bodies, you can see the difference, right? So what you eat matters definitely for longevity, but if you really want to be immortal, then you have to be in love. Strange, no? This is
Mm.
scientifically proven fact. I'm not making this stuff up because there's enough research to back up what I'm saying. That only love can make you immortal. And be in love like how you were in love for the first time. Not after some time we start developing resentment about our partners, and then we feel that uh, this person is not fair to me, but still I'm going to be with them. Therefore, I am superior. It becomes an ego trip. So
Mm.
when love gets replaced by ego, you start aging again. So no matter how much you take care of your food, how much you exercise, go to the gym and do CrossFit and do yoga and do everything, you're still going to die because you don't have telomerase.
So, let's say when someone comes to you on this specific issue, and you have to, your first process is to help them get in love. So, what is your, and can you share an example on this? What is your take on how to balance a relationship?
You should not do anything without your consent. This is the first and foremost rule to balance any kind of relationship.
Mm.
Neither you nor your partner should be doing anything without your consent, right? And when you partner with someone, you naturally go a step further. This does not mean that you will not undertake inconveniences. You will. When your partner needs it, then you will undertake inconveniences, but you do it with your full consent. You do it happily, right? So that it's not about what you do that strains you. It's about the emotion with which you do it that strains you. So if you're doing everything with a happy emotion in a relationship, everything will get balanced just like that, right? I always tell people partner with your partner, right? If you're feeling in a certain way, you have to talk about it. This talking part, many people fail, especially men. They fail at this because they've been told that to express their emotions, especially vulnerability, is weakness. But it's not weakness to express your vulnerability. If something is bothering you, you should open your mouth and speak up. A lot of men take all the burden of the family, right? They're the providers. So they take all the burden, the financial burden. It's not necessary. Women can earn too. You just share your vulnerability, saying, I can't earn so much. Can you help? And you'll be surprised that your spouse might step in and actually help you to earn money or whatever, right? So women are probably failing at a lot of their stereotyped, roles, like, as a homemaker, she might be failing, but she's not asking her husband to help. Like, can you do the dishes? She can't ask him, right? They don't have this communication. So
Mm.
wherever we're vulnerable, we should ask for help. Second step is ask for help. Your spouse is not a telepath, right? They can't read your mind. So many people just think like, they think you should, if you love me, you should have understood this already. No, the person does love you, but he can't read your mind. So you have to open your mouth and say what's going on, right? So this
Mm.
expression, self-expression, and creating a space for safe self-expression, this is all very important parts of relationship on which I coach people. So when I talk to people, I understand what's going on with their relationship and what's wrong, and I tell them exactly what they can do now to make it all right. And so people are doing vipassana. Why are they doing vipassana? Some of them are doing it to calm down their mind, but some of them are doing it to gain spiritual powers. But none of them are doing it to have a good relationship. And so the intention with which we go into meditation is also important, right? Why are we doing that meditation? This is very important. And for most
Mm.
people, why they're doing meditation is like relief, right? It's like going to the loo. You get some relief after it. That was a relief, something like that. So meditation has become like that. And then they say, I'm doing meditation to gain spiritual powers. I want to have this, I want to be able to do this. I want to control the weather. I want to look at a cloud and make it vanish. And, I want to make a spoon bend. Dude, what is the use making a spoon bend when your spouse hates you? So I think you should focus on that, right?
I'm equally guilty on this side too. As well, I've seen many people that whenever your mind is agitated, the first thing you think that is that I want to go down and meditate.
The words you say matter. How you talk matters. So that's what should be part of your routine always. Don't see. I was telling someone the other day. She was asking me what yoga routine should I follow. I said, if you have a knife in your hand, will you go around waving it at your son? Will you run at your son waving it like this? She said, why would I do that? And I said, your tongue is a knife. Be careful
Mm.
because it cuts and hurts people. So your tongue is a knife. Just treat it like a knife. Don't open your mouth and don't say whatever you want. You don't get to say whatever you want. You're living with people. You have to talk. You have to calculate what you're saying and talk correctly. So when you start treating your tongue like a weapon, then you're a yogi.
That's a very good analogy. I guess I'll share it this part with everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It hurts you more than a knife. Anyway,
that's true. That's true. Ashwin, we've just come to the end of the interview, and here's the last question. What message would you like to share with everyone?
please take care of your emotional health because that's the primary thing. The rest of it will happen automatically. Your entire life will get sorted if you're able to become happy. If you learn the secret of being happy, which is it is a discipline and needs to be practiced. And yeah, so that's the main. That's why we came here. We came here to be happy, but not all by ourselves, with others, right?
That's true.
Anyway,
That's true. We are ultimately the social animal.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah. How other people feel affects us, affects our happiness too. If somebody's unhappy in our environment, we'll also be unhappy. But people are trying to ignore other people's unhappiness and be happy all by themselves. Don't do that mistake. You have to become happy together. At least your
Y-
loved ones all have to be happy for you to be happy.
Yes, I have seen that when you try to make someone else happy, you ultimately do get happy. So that is like
Hmm.
it just amplifies. The happiness just gets
I
amplified
don't
in
know.
everyone around you.
When I explained it yesterday, right? The symbol of a rakhada is the Trishul. So it's I, you, and also we. All three have to be happy. All three have to. All three perspectives need to be satisfied.
Hmm.
So there are
That-
different words for this happiness. The happiness you can cause to yourself is called santosha, but the happiness you cause the happiness you get when other people become happy is called mudita, and the happiness you get when both of you are happy is called ananda. So we have like different words for these.
Yes, I guess that I guess clearly simplifies what you're trying to say and your greater mission in life. Thank you, Ashwin, for your time. And where
Yeah,
can everyone find you on the internet?
just search for Ashwin the Beach Yogi and on YouTube. That's the best way to find me. I'm there on, but I'm also there on Facebook, Instagram, same handle, Ashwin the Beach Yogi. So yeah, you can get in touch with me on any of these.
Perfect, perfect. I'll make sure to link all these social handles on the show notes. Thank you, Ashwin, for all your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Harish. It was amazing talking to you. Thank you so much. I just love your show, man.
Thank you.